All right, let's talk about Friedrich Nietzsche. I know, he can be one of the most intimidating philosophers out there. But what if I told you there's one single book that's the key to unlocking his entire way of thinking? That's what we're diving into today, the book that's the crucial pivot point in his entire philosophy.
Nietzsche himself had a really powerful way of describing the feeling behind this book, The Gay Science. He called it a second clarity. Think about that. It's like he saw himself recovering from this deep, deep sickness, the sickness of old, tired, life-denying values, and finally emerging into a new kind of health, a whole new perspective.
So think of this book as a bridge. It's the crucial bridge in his thinking. And to really get it, we're going to walk across that bridge together. First, we need to understand the giant chasm it was built to cross. Then, we'll look at the actual tools he created to build it. And finally, we'll see where we end up. What's on the other side?
All right, so the first part of this journey, we have to face the crisis. This is the big one that Nietzsche saw coming. He basically diagnosed this massive cultural earthquake, and he predicted its aftershocks would be felt for centuries. And you know what? He was probably right.
And this leads us to probably his most famous and most misunderstood line. It's delivered by this character, a madman, who runs into the marketplace shouting this. But here's the thing you absolutely have to get. This isn't some happy cheer for atheism. Not at all. It's a panicked announcement. It's a diagnosis of something huge that had been happening for a long, long time.
See, it's not about just one person deciding they don't believe in God anymore. What Nietzsche was getting at was something way, way bigger. He was talking about the collapse of the entire moral framework of Western civilization. The very foundation that gave everyone a sense of meaning, purpose, right and wrong, for centuries, had just crumbled away. The bedrock was gone.
And that madman's frantic questions, they perfectly capture that feeling of vertigo, right? That feeling of just falling. This is the crisis of nihilism he was talking about. What do you do when all your values suddenly have nothing to stand on? There's no up, no down, no direction, you're just lost.
Okay, so you're staring into this abyss of meaninglessness. What do? Well, for Nietzsche, the answer wasn't despair. The answer was to start building. He needed to create the tools to build a bridge over that chasm, to respond to nihilism with creativity.
And the first tool he gives us is, well, it's not some complicated theory about the universe. It's a thought experiment, a psychological test. He called it the greatest weight, and it's designed to do one thing: test your entire attitude towards your own life.
So imagine this. A demon comes to you in your loneliest moment and whispers this idea in your ear. Would you just curse that demon? Or is there a part of you that would say, you are a god? This is the most divine thing I've ever heard. I mean, really think about that. Could you look at your life, all the good, the bad, the boring, the painful, and not just accept it, but joyfully will it to happen again and again, forever? Your answer? Well, it reveals everything.
And if you can pass that test, if you can say yes to that demon, that leads you to the second tool. It's a concept he called amor fati. It's Latin for love of fate. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's not just putting up with your life, it's loving it. Radically accepting and loving everything about it exactly as it happened and is happening.
So you can see the path he's laying out, right? You start with this absolutely terrifying test, the greatest weight. But confronting that test is what leads you to this profound achievement, amor fati. It's about taking everything that's necessary, everything you can't change, and turning it into something you choose, something you love. But you need an engine to drive all this, right? That's the third tool, the will to power. Now hold on, because this is another one that gets misunderstood all the time. In this book, the will to power has nothing to do with dominating other people. It's about self-mastery. It's the internal drive to grow, to shape your own character, to overcome your own weaknesses, especially in a world where there are no external rules telling you how.
So there you have it. Those are the tools: eternal recurrence, amor fati, and the will to power. With these, we can actually cross that bridge. We can get from that chasm of nihilism to a new place of affirmation. And the big question is, what's waiting for us on the other side? Well, it's a new ideal, a new kind of person.
He calls this new ideal the artist-philosopher. And this person, they're the architect of the future. They're the one who can actually thrive now that God is dead. They don't just survive in this new, groundless world. They're the ones who are going to shape it, who are going to create the new values. And this new figure is the complete opposite of what Nietzsche called the spirit of gravity. You know, that feeling somber, serious, weighed down by old rules. The gay scientist, on the other hand, is all about joy and art. And just to be clear, the word gay here comes from la gaia scientia, which means the joyful science. It's a reference to medieval poets, a science of lightness, of creativity, of play.
So what does this artist, philosopher look like? Well, they're a creator, not a follower. They see their own life as their greatest work of art, something to be shaped and perfected. They're intellectually honest. They balance seriousness with a kind of philosophical cheerfulness. And most importantly, they create their own values.
Okay, let's bring it all back together. Why does this one book, The Gay Science, matter so much? How is it the fulcrum for his entire project? Because it's not just one more step on his journey. It is the pivot.
This book is where you see the shift happen in real time. It's the exact moment his thinking pivots. He goes from being a philosopher who primarily tears down old, broken values to one who starts actively building new, life-affirming ones. He becomes a creator, not just a critic.
It's so cool because it looks backward to all his earlier critical work, but it also looks forward to the powerful, almost prophetic voice you hear in his later books like Thus Spoke Zarathustra. It lays out the biggest problem of the modern world, and then it gives us the first sketch of a solution. That's why it's the bridge. It connects everything.
So when you boil it all down, The Gay Science isn't just a philosophy book. It's a toolkit. It's a set of powerful psychological tools for creating your own meaning in a world that often feels like it has none. Nietzsche saw the problem, he built the bridge, and then he basically hands the tools over to us, which leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? What are you going to build?